Story 1. I had really bad acne when I was 19. A man at the grocery store approached me in front of all my friends and asked what that disease on my face was and whether he would catch it if he got too close to me. He had genuine concern in his eyes. I cried for years. Story 2. My mother suffers from mental health issues. As a child, I often heard the sentiment, "I wish I'd never had you," expressed in many colorful ways. Story 3. My adoptive mother said this after she had a bit too much wine. I was in my early 40s. "Do you know why we adopted you? All of our friends were having kids, and we needed one to keep up. My parents were very abusive physically, mentally, and emotionally. They were cold and distant. In that instant, I finally understood my childhood. Why they never cared, why they never hugged me, and why they were so mean. I never mattered. I was a prop, brought out when needed and put away when not. Every question I ever had about my childhood was answered that day." Story 4. I was not a very attractive child. I was overweight and felt weird. On a school trip in year 6, we stayed in a motel. The owner served our dinner, said he needed to feed the dog, and then handed me a plate. It has been 40 years and I still remember. "Thank you so much for all your outrage on my behalf." Little me was gutted. Big me says, "Fuck that guy." Story 5. Last conversation I had with my grandmother before she died, she said, "It must be so difficult, given that your cousins are all more successful than you. I was deemed less successful because I have overcome alcoholism and trauma. I am not married, and I do not have children. Meanwhile, I have 2 master's degrees, but God forbid I am not churning out babies." That really stung. Story 6. I have bad teeth due to genetics. When I was 13, my dentist told me that for such a pretty girl I sure had an ugly mouth. My mom immediately defended me and scolded him. I left completely broken and in tears, as it was something I could not help. I had always maintained good hygiene. Story 7. Either family members and close friends accused me of lying about being sexually abused by a family member, or they know the truth because he admitted it yet still make excuses for him and say he is a good person. Story 8. When I couldn't help out on a Saturday in 1973 because I was taking the Scholastic Aptitude Test, my dad said I shouldn't bother. He said I was too stupid for college and that I should just be a waitress. Story 9. My father, during one of my visits home from school, said honestly that he sometimes couldn't wait until I left. I told him that was a terrible thing to say, and he responded that it was true. Story 10. It was not so much what was said as the pointed action that conveyed it all. They went into the kitchen and brought me a butcher knife when I opened up about feeling suicidal. Story 11. I was laughing with a girl when she looked over and said, "Oh my God, you are so ugly." I never laugh without thinking about it. It was probably about 7 years ago. Story 12. I used to work at a local fast food chain as a window cashier. Once I dropped a customer's debit card while handing it out the window, and he called me a stupid cunt. Story 13. I am a veteran. Once a girlfriend told me the only thing I was good for was killing people. Thank you all for the well wishes and support. I was remembering the worst comment I have ever received and did not expect so much positive energy. I have always been proud of my service. Most of the people I meet in and out of uniform remind me why. Thank you to all the airmen, Marines, soldiers, and sailors. I am proud to have served with you. Story 14. My adoptive mom once called me a cunt in front of my whole family, including my younger siblings who were in elementary school. Story 15. The doctors got your conception date wrong. They thought you had Down syndrome and wanted me to abort you. Sometimes I wish I had listened. Not as bad, but my mother-in-law blames my low body mass index for my advanced disc degeneration and texts me every few days to tell me how terrible I look and that I need to eat better. I am not a big fan of mothers. Story 16. As a teenager, my mother told me she hoped I could have rhinoplasty as an adult. Story 17. My family is strange. My mother and her sisters compared their children, and I have a cousin 3 years older than me. Because we are both girls and close in age, we were constantly compared, as if it were a competition to see whose child was best. One Christmas, while my mother was praising how smart I was, my uncle said, There is always a smart and ugly one, and a beautiful and dumb one. That single comment ruined our childhood. We were only 15 and 18 when it was said. Now we are best friends because we both endured similar comments and agreed they came from insecure adults. We have largely cut our family out of our lives, and we are much happier now. Story 18. I know you have depression, but everyone gets sad sometimes. Yes, thank you. I am happy for you that it is only temporary, but depression is a little different, honey. Story 19. Do you eat your lunch alone at school? Sometimes. Yeah, it shows. Some random man said that to me at a party. I was very drunk, but I remember it. It's dumb. Story 20. One of my university professors told me I would never succeed because of my thick Texas twang. I have 3 graduate degrees, including a Doctor of Philosophy, and a curriculum vitae 3 times as long as his. He calls me Dr. Redneck. Yeehaw. Story 21. In my second year of university, I lived with a group of roommates and we had house parties every weekend. I did not drink much, and at the time I was going through a depressive episode, so I often stayed in my room or left early. One day my roommate Jess, a pseudonym, was ranting that she was scared to tell our other roommates she had decided to stop drinking. Parties. I told her it was okay. I did not drink either, and they had never been mean to me about it. Jess replied that it was not the same because when she said she was not going to go they pressured her. But with me they did not even notice when I left. I do not know if she meant it the way I took it, but it has been 5 years and it still sticks with me. Story 22. My ex-girlfriend texted me, "No wonder your brother killed himself," after I broke up with her. My brother had died 2 weeks earlier. It did not really bother me because she was clearly unstable and I knew she was just venting, but that is probably the meanest thing anyone has ever said to me. Story 23. This came from my ex of 5 years. He said I was not a human being, only a body and a creature, and called me a bitch. That was the first time his mask fell off. Before that, he had seemed like a perfect man to me. Story 24. I had been chatting with a guy at the bar, just casual drunk talk. He said he was going to take off and that it had been nice talking to me. I replied that those 7 cats at home were not going to feed themselves. Story 25. I had just found out I was pregnant, and the father said, "You know you're not keeping it, don't you?" Spoiler alert. I kept the baby and got rid of him. Story 26. When I was 11, kids at school told me my mother did not love me because she gave me away. Story 27. My dad left me a note telling me I was grounded and calling me cruel, cold, and heartless. I was 15 at the time. He was referring to a conversation in which I told someone that all the puppies my dad sold were kept outside and that I was the only one taking care of them. I felt like I was running a puppy mill. The fact that he wrote it down made it hurt even more. Story 28. My bipolar mum recently moved back in with me. She was ecstatic to have me home, but a month ago she had an episode and told me she felt like killing herself just to get away from me. The night before we had dinner together and it was nice. Bipolar disorder is difficult. Story 29. My dad told me he hoped I would burn in hell and never find peace over 2 shots of moonshine he couldn't find. He didn't remember it because he had drunk it earlier before going on his tirade. Story 30. On my 19th birthday, I was working at an electronics store. I sold a camera to a plastic surgeon who needed it to take before and after photos. While ringing him up, he said, "You could use a nose job." My nose had always been my biggest insecurity. I held back my tears and he ruined my birthday. Story 31. No one would have you. My ex told me about 20 years ago. She is still single after 4 subsequent relationships went south. I have been with my partner for the last 17 years. Story 32. My ex told me I was a depreciating asset and he was an appreciating one, and that when he left nobody else would ever want me. We were 3 months apart in age, but I guess that's what he believed about women getting older. Story 33. My dad called me worthless constantly while I was growing up. Decades have passed, but that feeling of worthlessness remains with me. Story 34. Nothing I have experienced compares to some of these horrific stories. I am sure people have said mean things about me. Apparently it is mostly behind my back. Story 35. Someone once called me too perky behind my back, and it bothered me. I am a kind, happy person in public. Story 36. Got discharged from Navy boot camp for bullshit because of the delayed entry program, poor recruiters, and my parents. I came home and worked in a deli. A customer mentioned he was in the Navy, and I said I had been in boot camp but had to come home. He responded awkwardly and said, "Well, look at you now." I bounced back. I worked hard to get into college on my own, earned a bachelor's degree in information systems, found a good job, and have been happily married for 14 years. I still remember how much that hurt when I was at such a low point. Story 37. When I was 12 and clearly gay, my father told me I would never amount to anything and that I would pick oranges. He was a son of a bitch, and my mother was a worthless bitch. After he died, I hired an attorney and never spoke to either of them again. Story 38. My mom told me to go away and that I was annoying. I had not talked to her in a month, and we lived in the same house. She broke my heart that day. Story 39. My dad repeatedly told me I was a stupid idiot about 10,000 times. I'm fine. Story 40. High school me. Mom, I'm struggling with life right now, and I don't know how to handle these emotions. Everything sucks, and I just can't do it anymore. I don't like growing up. Mom, get over it. Story 41. I was in the back doing dishes and cleaning machinery when I thought I heard the doorbell. I turned the water off and started toward the front. Halfway up, someone shouted, "Hello? Is there anyone here? Sorry, I was in the back doing dishes. You can stop shouting now." The interaction was going all right. Then it came to goodbyes. "Want your receipt?" "No, but your number would be nice." "Best I can do is a receipt." I dropped my smile because God forbid he thought I was flirting. Oh, come on. Too good to get coffee with someone like me after work. I don't date customers. I work alone. At this point, my instincts to be alert and ready to defend myself kicked in. "Well, fuck you too. You're not even that attractive. You're just a fat-ass bitch. Go back to the back and slit your wrists because you're fucking ugly." I was just trying to be nice. Yep, 100% appropriate response to being turned down. Story 42. Maybe God isn't blessing you with a husband because you don't want children, my mom said. When I was 10, I was in my bedroom listening while my grandmother and mother looked at family photos in the hallway. My grandmother said she would choose my cousin over me in a house fire because she didn't really know me. Story 43. People have screamed some of the most horrible things a person can say at me, and the phrase that always sticks with me is "kill yourself" or similar variations. Many people I loved and thought loved me have said that to me, and I am honestly running out of reasons not to do it. I am really sorry you are feeling so overwhelmed. Are you thinking about harming yourself right now? If you are in immediate danger, please call your local emergency number or, if you are in the United States, dial 988 to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. If you can, reach out to someone you trust or a mental health professional. I can help find resources or contact numbers where you are if you want. Story 44. You'll probably kill yourself by 16. I was 14 and horribly depressed. More blue than Picasso's painting. But I'm 21 and counting as of right now. Story 45. My ex-wife once said to me, "You failed at life." That cut really deep. I suppose she didn't appreciate having a loving, devoted man who gave her a home, 2 children, and happy memories for 16 years. Story 46. In 3rd grade, I worked hard to make the honor roll. When I found a certificate on my desk, a girl in my class said it was a mistake and alerted the teacher. Story 47. You're only worth it for the one-night stands. That fucking sucked. I haven't dated in a year, and I'm looking again. That's the first encounter I get. Story 48. My ex-husband is bipolar and delusional and was suicidal because he had an affair that resulted in a child, and I left him over it. He struggled with his mental health for months. He said he would redo everything if he could, but I could not forgive it. My next boyfriend, with whom I have a daughter, said he was suicidal because I am a horrible person to deal with, that I make people want to kill themselves, and that I am the reason my ex wanted to end his life. By far, the cruelest thing I have been told. Story 49. My stepfather called me many names, but the one that hurt the most was worthless. Story 50, my aunt. When I was 17, she bought me a toy Porsche because it was the closest I would ever get to owning one. When I was 35, I sold my first novel. Good advance, well received by critics. She read it and then told me not to quit my day job. She could not even say well done. She was not as bad as some people, but my God, she was a bitch. Story 51. My dad and I spent a week in the Caribbean with a friend of his and that friend's daughter. At the airport, I bought him Starbucks and thanked him for the trip. I told him I had a good time. He replied that it was embarrassing for his friends to see me with him. He said I was so fat and that none of his friends had fat daughters. He added that my face was not bad but that I needed to work on my body. Since I was young, he has always commented on my body and called me fat. Hearing that he was embarrassed hurt. Story 52. You are too quiet and boring. Good luck finding someone who actually loves you like that. I am 27 and still searching for a man who will accept me and love me the way I am. I do not want those bullies to be right. Story 53. I faked all those orgasms and fucked all your friends. Story 54. Come here, fatty. Let us see if you can fit in this picture. My aunt when I was a child. Story 55. Someone told me that I was unworthy of being loved because I am Catholic. Story 56. I was fired for being slow, and then immediately received a full-time job offer. Karma is real. Story 57. So glad all that therapy I paid for worked, my mom said sarcastically. Story 58. My ninth grade algebra teacher said, you will never amount to anything, after I received 0% on my final exam. Joke's on you, bitch. I have a master's degree and I was just promoted to a supervisory position. Edited to add. She also said this in front of the entire class. Story 59. You are mean to the bone. You'll get yours, wait and see. God will smite you. She had dementia, but oh well. Story 60. I told a friend I was suicidal. She yelled at me and told me I am weak. People were commenting on my weight too. They said I am fucked in the head. I know I am, but that does not make it any less painful. Story 61. You have a wealth of knowledge, but I don't believe you have anything worth teaching others. Story 62. Someone told me I would not get a job because of how bad my teeth looked and that I should not apply until I fixed them. I did not take it too hard. I stood up for myself every time they said it. I only had a few cavities and no money or hope of affording dental care at the time, so I had them treated. Later, when I obtained insurance, I learned that people can be ridiculous about teeth. I am glad to say I am completely cavity-free and my teeth look great. I am also glad I learned early not to measure my worth by appearance, because people can be vicious, shallow, and cruel, and I have not forgotten that. Story 63. You are a miserable person, and nobody will want to be around you. My mother. Story 64. It was not said directly to me, but someone I thought was a close friend of several years told my now husband that they did not really like me until I started dating him. Story 65. Is that really how you smile? I've always hated my smile. Story 66. Years ago, a kid said to me, "You're fat." I replied, "I can lose weight, which I have, but you'll always be ugly." Story 67. Once I wrote my mom a note when I was in elementary school apologizing that she was stressed and saying that if she and dad needed to go on a vacation without us, our uncle and aunt could watch us. It was longer, but you get the idea. She blew up and said that if I thought she was stressed, maybe it was because I was not doing well enough and that I should try harder and do more work. I was in 5th grade. Story 68. You are worthless, my dad said. You are too fat for diet and exercise. You need bariatric surgery, or no man is going to want you, my dad said when I got divorced. Shut up, you are fat and ugly, my friend said in middle school. Story 69. I'm adopted. I was at a bar with one of my cousins who was about 10 years younger. It was nice to see him. During the night, he turned to me and said, "You're not a real member of the family, you're adopted." I haven't spoken to him since. That was about 13 years ago. At the time I brushed it off, but my girlfriend sat down with me and said it was heavy. He wasn't joking. Story 70. It reminds me of the quote, "The axe forgets, but the tree remembers." Story 71. You are so close to being pretty, but something is missing. Story 72. I was in a fight with my now ex-husband. I asked him to name one thing he likes about me. He paused for a long time and said he could not think of anything. Story 73. My high school science teacher told my parents, in front of me, that I could look forward to a career as a day laborer. He would be shocked if he saw me now. Ha. Story 74. My mother said this is so terrible. My only child is going to hell. Thanks, Mom. Story 75. From my first serious boyfriend. I'm used to dating prettier girls than you. Story 76. So many things. I can't choose. I would say a man I dated years ago got into a big argument and he said, I don't care about you. You could die tomorrow and I wouldn't give a fuck. Story 77. I cut myself only once in my life. During a wild argument with my mom when I was 18, I cut my wrist. Her reaction was, "You went the wrong way, pussy." Story 78. My dad said I was just like my aunt after I defended my mom while he yelled in her face. The kicker is that my biological aunt murdered someone, so it still angers me that he would compare me to her in any way. Story 79. As a teenager in junior high school, at a party someone I did not know walked up to me and said, "You sure are ugly." It was devastating back then, and even now, decades later, it still stings a bit. Just why? Story 80. I had a neighbor's 7-year-old pipe up and say, "You have a really big face." Story 81. I'm not working with that," said the girl who peaked in high school when the teacher paired us together in class. Story 82. Following a suicide attempt, my father told me to get out of the funk I was in. Gee, thanks. Story 83. I didn't care enough about you to care if I was hurting your feelings, a man said while absolutely crushing my heart. Story 84. My father asked if I had considered dating my own kind after I told him I was having trouble dating in high school. I am disabled. I have cerebral palsy. Story 85. I'd be embarrassed if I were you, said my ex-stepmother when we had just started exercising together. After 3 days of walking in the hot summer, I couldn't jog up a long hill. She still wonders why I don't talk to her much after she and my father divorced. Story 86. My ex once told me that the only reason he was with me was that otherwise he would be homeless, and that being with me was barely better. Story 87. Nobody wants to hang out with you, and you have no friends. My dad told me this the last time I saw him. It was also my birthday. Thanks, Dad. You really suck. Story 88. You have the potential to be really pretty regarding my weight. I don't know why it stuck with me, considering it came from a depraved incel. Story 89. My friend was describing someone and said she is not pretty but not ugly, kind of like you. Story 90. The first time I willingly allowed someone to touch me under my bra, he made an awful face and said, "I knew they were small, but that was so much worse than I imagined." I froze, and he just continued doing what he wanted. Story 91. I had a friend in my wedding, but after her behavior at my bachelorette party, I removed her. She did not take it well. A friend of hers confronted me and said I was unfit to be anyone's wife or mother. 2 weeks later, my stepdaughter was killed, and I miscarried. What she said really affected me for a while. Story 92. After a breakup. You were a disappointment. You are beneath me. You are a coward. Story 93. He killed himself over you. When my ex committed suicide. Story 94. Some people say I am a robot, that my ability to manage my emotions is actually being emotionless. I have and express many emotions. I just do not let them run the show. Story 95. It would have been easier if it had been you, my mother said when my younger brother died of an overdose. Story 96. Oh, you think any of your friends really like you? Thanks, Dad. Story 97. Everyone loves my husband. He could do so much better. I do not understand why he settled. A female coworker said to my face. I was very sick at the time and on high doses of steroids, which made me very swollen. She made similar comments about other coworkers' wives. But it still hurt. The last time I saw her, I had returned to my normal weight, and she would not make eye contact. Story 98. You're a horrible fucking father. I am not. When trying to get a hug, Jesus, you and the dog. Unsolicited. If you get sick, I'm leaving you. My ex. Story 99. I am female and have a non-identical twin sister. In middle school, a girl said, "Your sister is so nice and pretty. What happened to you?" Story 100. A former friend of mine unexpectedly told me that I could be so beautiful if I changed a few things. She drank excessively and often made inappropriate remarks to everyone. Story 101. My aunt said at her daughter's funeral, "Why couldn't you have died instead of my daughter?" My mouth dropped open. I was 25 and working 2 jobs to put myself through college. Her daughter was rich and privileged. Story 102. You are a bitch who doesn't deserve him. My mom said this to me when I was 16, referring to my boyfriend at the time. I'll never forget it. Story 103. It was my second session with a new therapist a few weeks after my mother committed suicide. I was fairly reserved and non-communicative. I had warned her in our initial session that I might be this way and that I would likely need direct questions to get me to verbalize my experience. A few minutes into the session, she expressed visible frustration with my minimal responses and told me I was taking the chair away from someone who actually needed to be there. Story 104. It was my fault they cheated on me. That was nearly 20 years ago. Shit just never went away. Story 105. Does your girlfriend have shit in her eyes? Thanks, Dad. Every time you sing, it makes me physically sick. Fuck you, Gainer. Story 106. The ugly duckling. Not even a duckling. I think it's funny now. Story 107. I am a tall woman. I have had weight issues off and on as well. A girl I knew called me a disgusting ogre, and I still think about it all the time. That was at least 14 years ago. Story 108. A bouncer when I was about 23 told me he didn't need to card me because of my crow's feet. Goddamn Irish skin and all that laughing was totally worth it. Story 109. My therapist said I like being hospitalized in the psychiatric ward. Story 110. I don't know anymore. Basically, humans are evil creatures. They will hurt you no matter what. Being a snowflake doesn't help. Story 111. I attended therapy for anger management and admitted my shyness around girls. The man I was seeing encouraged me to step out of my comfort zone and said it would hopefully help ease my anxieties. I said hi to a girl. She scoffed and called me a freak. I was 11. For years I was just the fat freak. I have never been part of the men going their own way movement, but I am not going to lie, those experiences colored how I see women and the way they treat others. Story 112. You do not get grandchildren. They are not your children. My partner's cousin said this about my 3 stepchildren, whom I love very much. I said we are not having any more children, so I am just hoping for grandchildren. You can see the response. Story 113. Politely turned a guy down in a bar and he replied, "You've got the flattest arse I've ever seen." Probably true, but I'm not arsed about changing it. Story 114. I was told I was not a real man because I had not confronted my mother about childhood trauma. It was said in a screaming, accusatory, and emotionally violent way. My heart aches when I think of it. It only got worse from there. Story 115. Hard to pick just one. I am Asian. I have been asked how I can see when my eyes are so slanty. My cousin's wife commented that my clothes are bigger than her maternity clothes. I am a size 4. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.